get started. Hi, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you. First, I want to thank the FIS initiative for inviting me to participate in the FIS week. It's really a pleasure to be here with two fantastic collaborators of Abimed, Elisabete Murata and Andrea Nocelli. I'm Fernando Silveira, Filho, the president of Abimed. And our purpose as an association is to continuously contribute to providing the best possible healthcare to our population, and thus contribute not only to a better quality of life, but also to a better longevity. Abimed is based on 5 pillars, and our panelists are going to talk about these subjects, about specifically 2 of them. We have the technology pillar and the education pillar. The pandemic certainly accelerated dramatically the process of digital transformation in the health industry. But long before that, Abimed was already discussing the need that we have for continuous evolution so that healthcare professionals are able to keep the pace with the evolution of the healthcare department. That's extremely fast and something that requires constant refreshments and updated knowledge from professionals. Our goal today, of course, is to provide the highest efficacy possible at the highest possible safety levels, whether it is through teaching new techniques, and continued education must also be reviewed with methods that are oftentimes also going through digital transformation. More than ever, now we have apps for remote communications, like what we're doing today. So if the resources are not endless, they are now much more numerous if compared to what we had years ago. Recently at Abimed, we released a technical note about digital transformation in the healthcare industry. And consequently, education could not be left out because it's one of the strategic pillars of Abimed. It's education. So we're deeply pleased to talk about digital transformation in health and continuous professional development. I'll introduce our 2 speakers, Andrea Nocelli, the head of educational services at Siemens. She's the lead of the education team with approximately 80 people, and she's responsible for the development of strategy in the sector, giving support to training. She graduated in biomedicine, and she has a postgraduate degree from the University of São Paulo, and she's been at the company for 15 years. It's a pleasure to see you again, Andrea. and Elisabete Murata, who's the leader of education at Johnson & Johnson for Latin America. Elisabete has been in the medical industry for almost 20 years, and she worked with less invasive procedures. Her passion for technology precedes Johnson when she worked for Motorola during the implementation of the very first digital cell phone antennas in Brazil. So thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. And in this technical note issued by Abimed, both Andrea and Elisabete, they wrote fantastic articles, and I think probably they're going to touch upon these articles during their talks. So Andrea, you can start your presentation. Thank you. Good afternoon, Fernando. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a huge pleasure to be with you and to have the opportunity to talk about such an important subject, which is a quite hot topic nowadays. If you had the opportunity to read the article that I wrote, you saw that I advocate and that I believe in the continuous development, the process of continuous professional development. And since the 1970s, due to an initiative of the PAHO, they already emphasize the importance of educational supplementation for these professionals, which is actually an investment, because changes that you can achieve with education benefit not only institutions and companies that are able to improve the quality of their services and become a top-of-mind provider by the population, but also to collaborators that feel more motivated and engaged. They feel that they belong and that they're being appreciated and having their efforts recognized by the company. Actually, more than that, it benefits more specifically patients who perceive the quality of the care that is provided, and they feel more secure and also more appreciated. And when we talk about continuous professional development, we should not leave out the evolution of the process. In the 1990s, the processes went digital when the physical data became digital, and we started delivering electronic manuals to our customers. In the 1990s, with the internet, came new transformations that were much more precarious at the time, but we were already starting to test this online world, which was the beginning of the Internet of Things. And now, in the present time, basically speaking, it's a much broader process where technological resources occupy a central role in the organization, which in turn intends to increase productivity and improve its results. And if we link that with continuous professional development, technology transforms not only the way we transmit and exchange knowledge, but it also transforms behavioral aspects. In an online learning process, collaborators or students are not simply a receptor, but they're also a protagonist, because all attentions are focusing on them, not only on professors. And I'm going to talk more about that when we talk about immersive solutions. Another important aspect that's worth mentioning, and which is also a positive aspect of digital transformation, is that it generates a lot of data, which allow us to assess the development of our teams, outline several action plans, and make much better decisions. Digital transformation is a very broad subject. There's a lot to talk about it, but as I mentioned, if we talk about the current times where we are experiencing such an important digital transformation, I want to make a connection with the pandemic. As Fernando said very well, COVID expedited the process of digital transformation. That's a fact. Conditions imposed by social isolation and lockdown certainly required companies to adapt themselves to this new situation and become more dependent on digital resources. And we at Siemens, who manage healthcare services, we're really concerned about our collaborators and their exposure to the virus, because they circulate in places that are even more susceptible to viruses, the clinics and hospitals. But on the other hand, we're also concerned with our customers because they could not stop their operations. After all, people were continuing to fall ill, not only with COVID-19, but also other diseases. So patients still had to have our support. So one of the alternatives would be online trainings. And we were already prepared as well. Actually, Siemens has been gearing up for this transformation for a long time now, because as Fernando mentioned, the healthcare industry already demanded that, and we were getting ready to deliver the best possible remote education and provide the best customer experience, albeit remote. Our online training platform is available to our customers free of charge since 2013, with over 6,000 items and content such as webinars and videos, content in Portuguese, and people always ask us about that. And in addition to this online training platform, we also have our simulators for all of our in vivo systems, the smart simulator, which allows our customers to learn to handle our systems even before the equipment is installed or available for use. And that also increases our customers' productivity. We have some examples of customers that were able to do TC tests right after the training and after the equipment was installed. So there are several cases of success, both to our customers and ourselves. But on the one hand, and I understand that, of course, customers were also pretty scared when they were told that the trainings would migrate to an online setting. And then we had to sit with our customers and talk to them and make sure that they would receive the best experience possible, albeit remotely, and also show them the benefits of getting online training. At the end of every training session, we always apply a satisfaction survey, and we got very positive feedback. People were really surprised with the organization and the level of preparedness of our professionals and with the training in general. Just to give you an idea, our NPS for training reached 91% in fiscal year 2020, and in fiscal year 2021, which ended in September, we reached 95%, which is to say that we maintained or even surpassed the pre-pandemic NPS levels. And our collaborators also benefit from that because they no longer have to travel so much. They can remain closer to their families at home. And also, we can invest in more tools as a company and digital solutions with the purpose of offering the best possible learning experience to our customers. And we also have other solutions for immersive digital education. I told you before about placing the students at the center of the situation, because immersion is all about that. Placing students at the center of the experience. And by using digital solutions, we can improve that experience. That is not simply based on perception. Several studies show that the satisfaction and the confidence of people who learn with immersive digital solutions is much higher, especially in the healthcare area. At Siemens, we have virtual reality for studying human anatomy, dosimetry, hemodynamics, surgical instrumentation, emergency medicine, devices that go way beyond our imaging diagnostic tools or lab diagnostic devices. It's also important to mention that in-person trainings will not be fully replaced by online trainings. There's this concern, especially among our customers. We know that having face-to-face interactions is also important. So at Siemens, we're trying to implement a hybrid model that can be customized and adjusted to the needs of each customer. And by customers, I do not refer only to institutions. I also refer to people, or to the profile of people working there in general. And in closing, I want to leave you with the message that to me is extremely important. I think that every institution, every company needs to have that very well defined. Digital transformation is all about the transformation of human beings. This is a challenge that's much more related to management rather than just to the application of technology. It's all about cultural change. There must be a close proximity between managers and teams, high management. High management has to disseminate these strategies so they are part of everybody's routines, and thus create a learning culture, and to let the collaborators get adapted to this project. And because it's them that will put that into practice and promote the digital transformation of companies. So people, as with everything in life, are fundamental, and culture will get transformed into the business strategy. That's what I had, Fernando. Thank you. That was fantastic, Andrea. This cultural aspect, we can go back to that during Elisabete's speech, but I think that the cultural aspect is the key to digital transformation in its several different dimensions. Thank you. Elisabete, over to you. You have the floor. Thank you. First, I want to thank you, Fernando and Abimed, for inviting us to participate in this digital transformation panel. And I want to congratulate Abimed on its 25th anniversary, the technical note. It was truly a beautiful piece of work, one of the most encompassing ones that I've seen in an area of knowledge that is still brand new. I will talk about the surgical area, which is where we operate more strongly at Johnson & Johnson Medical. You already said that updating the knowledge of professionals in the healthcare industry has never been as challenging as it is now, due to the sheer amount of interventions, treatments, and the acceleration in the emergence and creation of new technologies and devices. So if back in the 1950s, we estimated that it would take us 50 years to double our amount of knowledge, in the 80s, this became 7 years. And you mentioned yourself, Fernando, that now this cycle of knowledge gets renewed every 18 months or even less. So how can we keep up to speed with this frantic pace we have to evolve by implementing knowledge databases that are more current and student-centered? And when it comes to technology, professor executes a procedure, then you watch, and then you teach. So even though that's a classic model, it's quite present in all disciplines, and that, of course, is not unable to meet the needs of these new demands of transformation in health. And what we saw in the pandemic was that physicians and surgeons were more quick to adopt digital tools, but we also saw that in many cases, it was simply a direct transposition from a digital, from an in-person content to a digital content. And that led to fatigue, because that translation, so to speak, is not ideal. So when going digital with your content, we have to consider the following pillars. For one, you have to have a flexible content allowing for individualized methods. The institution, the education has to be focused on the specific needs of students. The decisions have to be data-driven. And now we have a lot more data, and we can really focus on improvement opportunities. And it's always important to focus on students. Empowering students is really important. It's the students that define their own pace and their own plan. And of course, technology is a huge ally when it comes to delivering these elements. So to recap this quick rhythm of new creations of technologies in the healthcare sector creates this huge demand, and all of the institutes involved in delivering continued education strategies, they have to constantly update their materials considering the past experiences and interests and motivations. And now I want to talk about something that is equally challenging in terms of the surgical area, which is when we talk about surgery, the complexity of techniques used is often one of the biggest, if not the biggest, challenges faced. Surgeons have to make very precise hand movements for better patient safety. So this constant refinement of abilities is extremely important, and that requires many hours of practical training, as is the case with professional athletes. And currently, these abilities are trained predominantly in person, which requires a very specific and complex infrastructure that requires labs and qualified instructors.
And our experience at JJ is connected to something that Andrea said. Hybrid training is an evolution. Of course, the hands-on model is not going to be replaced. However, using digital tools was something accelerated by the pandemic. Professionals are now more open to test these alternative methods. When we think about pre-pandemic times, the model that we adopted was that the surgeon was part of the teaching part. This used to be in person. Then they went into practical training in the lab, and they had an in-person support from another surgeon until they really felt safe and confident to perform the procedure independently. What are we doing currently? Well, modules, pre-study modules in an online platform. Students can watch live cases in a virtual platform, and before they go into the lab for the hands-on part of the training, which is more costly, then the surgeon can conduct other simulations, such as complex procedures using virtual reality, VR. And therefore, the practical hands-on and in-person part of the training becomes more effective. And using digital tools, we can also collect more data, and we can conduct a more precise feedback about the student's progress. I wanted to mention the JJ case regarding VR, the use of VR. JJ was one of the first medical companies to use VR to complex surgery processes. And this has many advantages. So training can take place anywhere at any time. We can have more repetitions. We can create standards for medical procedures. We can teach how to handle new technologies and products. But most importantly, we can have an objective measurement of the student's performance. A study was conducted by London's Imperial College, and it shows how the surgeon training is better when it uses VR versus traditional methods that involved observing surgeries. All VR trainees or surgeons that were training, they were capable of conducting procedures in a lab after 4 VR sessions. In the group that did not have the VR sessions, no surgeon was able to conduct the lab practice without support. So when we think about in-person training for orthopedic procedures, oftentimes we have tons of equipment that have to be sent, 2-3 tons of equipment and surgery tools that will be used in a training. So imagine replacing that by VR goggles and joysticks for this VR training. And in the JJ Institute, we are working in partnership with different medical schools in Latin America, and we include Hospital das Clínicas from the University of São Paulo to incorporate VR in the syllabus of orthopedic students. Our dream is that technology becomes so accessible that VR will then become an education tool for everyday student practices. Another technology we really believe in is tele-mentoring. When we think about ongoing or continuous education, learning new therapies and new treatments, the mentor is still very important, it's still key. And physicians, health professionals who will conduct a procedure for the first time, they need the support from a seasoned person. So mentoring can meet that need, and through tele-mentoring, there can be a remote connection between mentor and students during the procedure. So the mentor can see what's happening, can give instructions, complex instructions, even if he or she is in a different country or in a different city. So we can have a virtual mentor in each surgery center and in each lab. Imagine if we could have that. And we are also using AR to train our sales representatives that sells equipment. And we reduce costs, displacement costs or travel costs. And that also provides faster access to new information and new techniques. So VR, telementoring, AR, these technologies and others that are still about to come, they will play an important role in decreasing distances and increasing access, improving knowledge, in customizing the learning process and ensuring a more effective training for health professionals. The goal is what Fernando said. The goal is always to deliver the best possible results for patients. That's what I had to say for the time being. Back to you, Fernando. Thank you, Elisabete. Thank you very much. You're right. You mentioned some very important concepts that are being discussed, I would say in a more segmented way, but that are connected to that. Tailor-made medicine or customized medicine. Well, we talk about customizing therapy for each specific patient, but you're talking about tailor-made medicine teaching and medicine learning, which is also what Daniela mentioned when she spoke about the cultural transformation that it takes so that technologies or digital transformation is definitely incorporated. We spoke about telemedicine. We started speaking about telemedicine in Brazil in a more in an increased manner last year. Before that, we would just speak about this domestically inside our institutions. Now with the pandemic, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, the discussion, although we're still talking about telemedicine, but you know, this is not open for debate anymore. It is a reality. It just takes fine tuning so this can be incorporated definitely. It brings improvements for all parts of the supply chain, for the payer company, for the service provider, for the backstage, so to speak. You show the companies that provide these training services that install the equipment. So certainly this is an important change that we've seen and we will see increasingly happening in a more accelerated manner. I have a question for both of you. Of course, you talked about the learning that happened when we migrated from fully in-person to fully digital and now in the hybrid path. Is it possible to identify an improvement in yield? Elisabete, you talked about the study that was brought about by Imperial College, right? Is it possible, have you been able to measure in your environments, I wouldn't say gains in quality, but you know, real gains in terms of learning? How do you measure this in 3 different stages? In person, 100% personal, 100% digital, and now in the hybrid manner. Do you have any assessment of the improvements? Who goes first? I think we can measure this, Fernando. Yes, not just in satisfaction surveys. In these surveys, we see how beneficial that change is, but also in terms of effectiveness. Some clients have their effectiveness indicators to check whether trainings are being effective and efficient, and there are other ways to measure. I mentioned briefly a case in which the client started doing PET scans when the equipment is in their hands to start using. We trained online in our simulator even before the equipment got to the institution. And when the equipment finally got to the institution, the client had already been trained. So they could start serving patients the next day. And they started doing PET scans in 10 patients just the following day. So that actually decreases their time to schedule exams with clients, and they could start using the equipment faster. And the population could benefit from the equipment faster. And there are other similar examples, successful cases, as I mentioned, in which the client also increased productivity. And instead of having 5 trained people at once, they could have 10 people trained at once and in different shifts. The online environment also allows us to do that, to have shifts in different trainings. So several indicators show that this is really productive and that it brings about gains when we move online. Yes, I think there are gains in terms of effectiveness. Before the pandemic, we had in Latin America, well, we would train about 12,000 health professionals. In the first year of the pandemic, which was mostly online, we reached 35,000 health professionals. And we leveraged programs from other regions, other geographies at JJ that we could use here, and also using programs from partner institutions. And then finally, we were capable of reaching 100,000 people in Latin America. So the gain of efficiency is clear. When we think about performance and measuring this in an effective manner, and in surgery, when we talk about performance, surgeons have to review the procedure we've taught them, but we want to see the results at the other end. And at the other end, we have a patient. There are many discussions that are complex discussions, even because there are issues of privacy. What type of data can we collect? We can collect several types of data, but how do we share? How do we treat data? Because this is patient data. So when we talk about telementoring, of having a virtual presence in the surgery table, there are very sound and strict safety requirements, network requirements. But in summary, anyway, we really want to understand the results or the gains. And it's not even about digital versus in person. Of course, this is an important question, regardless of technology. But with the evolution of technologies, and I was talking about VR, we are bringing a new tool, which we call 1.0 VR, and we have an additional version already. It allows us to have several different types of measurements that provide very objective indicators in terms of performance. So it is a journey, I think. We're still on the journey to reach the final impact we can achieve, but I think we are moving forward in a very positive way. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, we have 5 minutes before we finalize this panel. And I wanted to give the floor back to Andrea and then to Elisabete so that you make your final remarks. What are your final messages? What do you see looking forward? Clear future. We are slowly leaving this pandemic state, but from your perspective, how will technologies keep evolving? What do you see for the future? Well, that's a very important point, Fernando, actually. Right now, the situation, I don't know if we can say that things are back to normal, but it's better. It's getting better. And some people are wondering, are we going to go back to normal? Is Siemens going to preserve their online training? Are we going back to in-person training? Yes, we will still have hybrid training because we've seen the benefits and the advantages of that. And I wanted to talk once again about the importance of cultural changes. I know this brings about some fears. You know, people sometimes fear changes, and we asked the leadership of the company to push the team forward so that this cultural change can happen from bottom up. You know, it's going to be really embedded in people's hearts and in their skills. And I think this takes some time. You know, there's still a journey ahead of us, but we did make a lot of progress when compared to when we began. Many opportunities to develop new technologies and to develop new areas. And of course, we will be able to deliver even better results for our clients. Many elements of the 4.0 health. I think that in next year, we might even discuss Health 5.0 in our conversation. So once again, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity, for the invitation. Thank you. Well, my final remarks. I think that the challenge for the health sector is huge. And when we think about Brazilian challenges, when we think about the economy, we are a country of continental dimensions. I think technology can really improve access to knowledge and to training. But I think we have evolved, but we still have pockets of innovation that serve specific needs. But I still don't see these pockets communicating between themselves. So I think that it's important to create an integrated ecosystem. That's how we will create real value, you know, providing the best possible therapy or treatment for patients. And initiatives such as this one today are really important to create this ecosystem. You know, we have the industry, we have health insurance providers, we have universities, we have tech companies, we have health professionals, everyone together here. And that's how we should work together to create the ecosystem. And we know that health doesn't wait, you know? A health problem is something that has to be served immediately. So we have to create the digital transformation both for the health sector and for education in health. And then I think patients will, you know, be thankful. All of us will be thankful. Patients will benefit. Together, we can further accelerate this transformation that is already in the move. Great. Thank you, Elisabete. We talked a lot about this technical norm that Abimed has released. This is the technical norm that was published by Abimed. So if you are interested in having more information, you can access the Abimed site. It's a free of charge document, abimed.org.br. And you know, the knowledge that we have from brilliant panelists such as Andrea and Elisabete, we want to share this with the more people we can. So I wanted to thank you all, Andrea, Elisabete, our speakers. Thank you for your brilliant presentations. I also want to thank the audience who is here watching us in these last 45 minutes of conversation. Of course, this is a topic that we still have to discuss, a lot to discuss. We will have 5G connection, we will have 5.0 health, of course. So let's keep in contact, let's keep working, and you know, through Abimed and through our associate companies, we'll keep on working to take the best healthcare to everyone in Brazil. Thank you very much.